Hello everyone, I'm Tony Southcott.
And I'm Komette, and welcome to Original versus Remake, where we compare the original film to its modern counterpart.
And today we're doing a very, very special remake versus original in which we are at a pet cemetery, just a little bit outside of Fort Collins.
It's in the middle of the night, and it is cold.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you guys, we are at this beautiful pet cemetery where people have buried their loved ones, their dogs, cats, and horses, and we're very excited to do today's film.
Yeah, and today we of course are talking about Pet Sematary, the original in 1989, the new one, brand new in 2019.
Brand new, came out tonight, that's why we're doing it in the middle of the night, is to give you guys the newest content that we possibly can.
And the first thing we have to do is talk about, like, the original is a flat-out classic. Like,
I gotta say, so I rewatched it. I've seen it a couple of times, but I rewatched it again last night, and it holds true.
Yeah, it definitely does. Like, I watched it a few weeks ago to do a 5-facts on it, and I was thinking it was going to be cheesier, and like I remembered more from Pet Sematary 2 than I did from Pet Sematary 1, and I have to say, Pet Sematary 1 is a strong movie. It's the first time Stephen King was allowed to actually make his own screenplay, and I think that showed in telling the true story that he wanted.
Yeah, and it even though it was corny, it was cheesy, it was made in 1989 by actually a female director. We talked about
Mary
this.
Lambert, I believe is her name.
We're very proud of that. It holds true to what it was. It was creepy, it was scary, it had good characters, it definitely built up a type of its own. Now, what do you have to say about the remake?
I would say that the remake is kind of a story of two different movies in a way. Like the first one, the first half of this movie pays a lot of homages, but it never really has any sort of like soul to it compared to like the original where you loved Judd, you loved the interactions between Lewis and Judd. And then the second one, it's like once the resurrection happens, things kick off and go more traditional action-y horror movie.
Yeah, they did do a few changes from the original. Sorry, I'm cold. It's in the middle of the night right now. They did change a few things from the original that I'm not sure needed to be changed at all. I was ready and geared up for this movie to kind of do it for me, and the remake didn't have, as Tony said, the soul in it that the original had for me.
And it wasn't that it was bad, it just didn't quite feel right. And the guy who played Lewis was a little bit more of a dynamic actor. Like, in the original, I will say he's a little bit stiff, but everyone else was great. Like, the guy who played Judd in the original, Fred Gwynn.
We're not gonna die that round no more.
Yeah, he was perfect for me, and I loved all of these little soliloquies, all these little reflective things. Like, whenever he's talking about, like, the heart of a man is stonier, he's talking about like how much harder it is for a man to let love into his life and how much harder he's gonna fight whenever he gets that. And when they drop it here, there's not any reflection, it's just a line.
Yeah, it is just a line. I think they tried to pay a lot of homage to the original, which I gotta give them kudos for. I really appreciate a film that tries to get to its roots and give honor and homage to the film that they came from, but this film just didn't quite, it felt like I was like, you know, I love you. It just wasn't real to me, and I think that's why.
Like, it seemed to be lacking a few key things. Like, the scariest part of the first one was Zelda.
Zelda was terrifying, and I gotta say, I just watched the original last night to get prepared for tonight, and Zelda was 10 million times more scary in the original than it was in the remake.
Yeah, and maybe for as far as realism, like, you've got a girl actually playing instead of a guy dressed like a girl with female makeup on and stuff. So it's not meant to be as creepy, but like you see more of the bones and you see more of the stuff, but it didn't have the slow creep factor. I did like Zelda's death a little bit. Like, that was actually a pretty good jump scare. It wasn't even a jump scare, it was just a scare because you knew something was behind the door and everything, and you needed a tension release. One of the few things I have to complain about with the original Pet Sematary is there's a lot of cat jump scares, which have kind of set a theme for other horror movies.
Yes.
The cat jump scare has been in hundreds of horror movies at this point, but that was kind of like the meme originator.
Yes.
So, like, it gets a pass for me on that one. I think some of the stuff we got to look at is sort of the booze and booze thing. It's like, was the second one scary to you?
No.
Like, We were in a theater filled with people, and you can always gauge a horror movie for its effectiveness by how are people reacting. And we didn't hear any gasps, we didn't hear any laughs, we didn't get the unsolicited reactions that you're looking for.
And I wasn't that way either. Like, even right now, I'm in the middle of a cemetery in the middle of the night, and I am not even remotely creeped out.
Yeah, like, this is the type of thing where if we had seen a really scary movie, like walking through a graveyard trying to find where the Pet Sematary was here would be a little bit harder. Like, there'd be a few steps more, especially because it's not just...
Oh, we lost our light. Should I go fix it?
Probably.
Okay.
See?
Not scared.
Something like that would have been a lot more scary. And watch, we're going to have like orbs floating or something like that. Like, we're going to have something whenever I'm reviewing the tape that's like, that's not right.
Oh,
but, see, it's easier to creep her out just talking about that than talking about this actual movie.
Yeah, so this movie, I feel like they had the cinematography, they had the good actors. I love, what's his name? You hate him.
John Lithgow.
John Lithgow. I love him, but I felt like we didn't connect with his character as we did in the original. The accent.
Yeah.
I love the accent.
He might have been mainlining a little bit too hard, but it was still awesome to have like a little bit of that local flavor. And the thing was, Judd didn't seem as lovable of a character.
No.
Maybe it's because he wasn't like Eddie Munster, or was it Freddie Munster?
He got drugged in this.
Yeah,
he didn't get drugged in the original.
He got roofied.
He got roofied.
But like, the thing is, like, I think that actually reflects a little bit more of the times. Whereas in 1989, parents would side with adults a lot more, and they weren't as afraid to let their kids like hang out with other adults. And now it's like there wasn't any chemistry between Judd and Lewis. Like, whereas in the other one, like they're making fun of other people for like wanting to drink their beers out of glasses. They're doing all sorts of stuff. It's just like little different things that ended up making their friendship seem more real.
And I agree. And also, I feel like the acting of the little girl kind of fell flat for me. They kind of switched roles in this one, and I don't want to give too many spoilers, but I felt like in the original I was able to connect with the little girl a lot more and kind of feel what she was feeling with the things that she was seeing.
Yeah.
And same with the mom. I gotta say, the mom I connected with a lot more. The dead student I even connected with a lot more than
like,
any of the characters
in the
in the
like,
new one.
Pascal was a big part
of
the first one. Like, he was there the whole time, and he was sort of a harbinger. He was sort of a leading character.
He was like almost like a guardian angel.
Yeah, whereas in this one, it was more like, it almost felt like he was pushing him there. He was like, oh, don't go there, but also I'm waking you up to make you go there.
Go there, yeah. And that's how I felt Judd's character was in the original, where I was like, come on, dude. Like,
well, Judd's character was temptation.
Yeah.
Like, he was that nagging voice of like, you could have them back. Oof. And in this one, Judd, it was just kind of there. He was just
we don't go down that road no more.
Yeah. So, like, and I know that they could have got a better performance from John Lithgow, because I've seen him act really well. I don't like him as much because I see him as Third Rock from the Sun. But there's a lot of people that probably saw Fred Gwynne as just Eddie Munster. Like,
yeah. That's
so,
a good point. That's a really good point.
I imagine both of them having that comedic part of things. Like, I saw him in Dexter, and he was good there, so I don't hate him. It's just, it's hard for me to, like, take that and remove him from it. So I'm sure people had that with the original. But the dynamic and the relationship wasn't there. Like, even the chemistry between the husband and wife, it felt more real in the first one.
Yeah, but I gotta say, I actually like the chemistry of the husband and the wife more so in this one, but only before the tragedy.
Yeah. Like, after the tragedy, it was just like she was there and then she came back just because it fit the story.
Yeah, and I feel like, and I said this before, I know when it was just when we were talking, you two don't know about it, but it was when it seemed like they put a lot more story and a lot more character development and a lot more information in the first one.
Yeah. And the thing was, they even added some things from the book in the new one that didn't make it into their original. They brought up the spirit of the Wendigo and things like that were cut from the original. But it still wasn't enough information. I will say the thing that they did a little bit better job of was representing how this entity could sort of copy and become other things. Mm-hmm. Like, whenever you see like a certain character and then it turns to another character, like, it makes more sense, because Zelda in the original film just shows up and can actually do a bunch, like, and you didn't really get an explanation there. I'm sure it was kind of insinuated. We didn't need it to be spelled out, but it felt like they actually did a good job in this, like with the whole Judd and the entity.
I agree. I think that there's a lot of crapshoots in the new one. I think the old one actually spelled out a lot more information that
And they were
was
both
needed.
the same length.
They were the same length. That's the thing that's incredible to me, is that they were the same length, but the original had more information that was needed to continue the story, whereas the new one had less information, and they probably tried to show more information via cinematography, and it didn't work.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think about what I would think if I would have gone and seen this one without knowledge of the first.
Yes, and that's hard for me because I just watched the first one last night.
Yeah, so if I came in with a blank slate, I feel like I would have seen an okay horror movie.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think that I would have seen anything that blew my mind.
It's
I don't
not
think
scary,
I would have
though.
seen. Yeah, I don't think I would have seen anything that like I would be revisiting.
Was it scary for you?
No, like
It
I
was
said,
not
there were
scary.
like 2 jump moments where I got a little bit of something.
Was that when I was
But
in the toilet?
One of them was.
Ah, that's
But
shitty.
the thing is, I didn't feel much from this movie. Whereas like the original Pet Sematary, you feel lost. And that's what the movie's about, really.
Right, like right now we're blinded by the lights of my car and I can't see 10 feet over that way, but I'm not even remotely creeped out. We're in the middle of a cemetery right now. We should be creeped out and feeling some sort of presence or just
agitation,
and I don't feel any of that.
Yeah, so it's like it was a little bit of a letdown.
It was a letdown.
And I think I kind of expected that from the trailers, because like most of the trailer, the ominous stuff was just Church staring at the camera. Like they didn't add a whole lot to the movie that made me think that. Like it had a good score to the trailer and it had some other things that felt like it was building tension, but so much of it was just like pan up on the cat.
Yeah, and the cat wasn't even that much in this one as it was in the first one.
Yeah, the cat in the first one was more violent.
Way more violent and around, and he was kind of the stalking character that was always near Lewis.
Yeah.
And kind of around, and that was not the case in this one.
Yeah, like
there's a huge semi passing by, and it just reminds me of the movie.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
Yeah. There was one going super slow when we started the review.
Really?
Yeah,
that's creepy.
Like, we're a little bit afraid of being rolled up on the cops, so I think we're gonna get our
afraid.
final thoughts in here.
Final thoughts, Tony.
I think that the original was better. I think that it's not so far leaps and bounds that I'm offended that they remade it. But I don't think there's anything special about the new one that's really worthwhile. Did you hear that?
What? What did you? No, you did not.
I heard something.
No, you didn't. He's lying. He's lying right
What's
now.
your final thoughts?
I'm gonna go on this side. My final thoughts are that
I actually did hear something.
No, you didn't. He didn't hear
Probably
anything.
a squirrel.
My final thoughts are that the original was better because they gave you the information that you needed. The remake, I feel like if you're gonna remake a movie, make sure it holds true to what the actual story is, and that I know this is simple, but it is good. You didn't need to remake the Pet Sematary.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I don't think that it really needed a remake. It kind of needed a remake because it aged worse than Pet Sematary did.
Yes.
And I did like the little poll they did for Dairy Maine. I did like that little
That
thing
was
they added.
interesting. We actually looked at each other. I was like,
Yeah.
So this is all in the same
Stephen King universe. But I think that this is going to cap off our review because we have to go turn the lights on again. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a patron if you are one, or go to patreon.com/humanechoes.
Oh my god, okay, I'm creeped out. Thank you guys. Bye.